Adolin goes in with Scar and Dre, pulls Kaladin out of the throne room, out of the entrance hall that's Elhokar's just died in, and they run across the Sunwalk to the Oathgate, and we meet Shallan, who's been trying to get the Oathgate to function. And I believe it's in the previous chapter, maybe it's in this chapter, where she successfully gets the Heart of the Revel to retreat. But there's a catch. Anybody want to talk about this?
So Shallan knows, she realizes in the moment that the Heart of the Revel retreats, but Shallan knows it's not because of anything she did. She knows that she was struggling against it, and then it just kind of turned around and left. So now it's kind of like, oh, wait a second here. We're already starting to suspect a trap. And then we get to the discussion with Jananath.
As she's wrestling with the Heart of the Revel, Eliot, you have something in the outline that did you want to talk about from chapter 84?
This is the bit of 84 that I wanted to key in on before we moved too far. So she's struggling with the heart. And the heart seems to really be playing off of all the struggles we've been talking about with Shallan recently. In the last couple of episodes we've talked about, we've kind of started to dive deep into what is Shallan really dealing with here? What is she fighting? Is this like a clinical multiple personality disorder kind of thing? What are we dealing with here? The heart like plays on all of those weaknesses, and just she's got like all these different like personalities just flashing through her mind, so that she doesn't even know who she is. She doesn't even know what is going on. And then a voice comes into her mind, and it's Wit. It's Wit. Which, sidebar, is he just like sitting off in a corner by the side of this, like just watching?
Yeah, you got it. Keep going.
Right? Like, this is interesting. Like, popping the popcorn. Like, oh, but yep, here they come. Yep, it's gonna be good. Oh, I suppose I should intervene in this moment here. Yeah. And anyway, sorry, that's my mental image of what Wit's doing here.
I imagine the old movie montage where it's like you're about to lose, and then it shows a ghostly version in the corner. It's like, remember your training, wax on, wax off. I don't know, something like that. And she's just remembering this, and then she's like, oh, and then has this epiphany, and then wins or something like that. That's how I kind of envision this.
And in this moment with Shallan, where Wit kind of chimes in here, I'll go ahead and read it. So it starts with Shallan saying this. She's dealing with the just overwhelming number of people that she is. They rule me, Wit, Veil, and Radiant, and all the others. They're consuming me. And then he responds back with, then be ruled as a king is ruled by his subjects. Make Shallan so strong the others must bow. And I thought that was an interesting solution to our dilemma we've kind of dived into with Shallan. It's almost like he's saying, embrace the fact that you are these different people, but make Shallan so powerful that she can control the rest. Put all your chips on Shallan. Don't get, fully wrapped up in Veil. Don't get fully sucked into Brightness, Radiant, or whatever other personality she's got going on. Go all in on Shallan so that Shallan can govern the others. And that's a really interesting mental picture, one personality within her governing the rest. Maybe that's some sort of a compromise here where she can embrace these different personalities and allow that to still be true, but still give the authority to Shallan. So really interesting little scene there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of painted as a big character moment for her of, let Shallan rule. But then there's not really much payoff, because then the Heart of the Revel just kind of, okay, bye. I'm done stalling you now. You can use the oath gate. Like,
Yep.
and then she walks in, and Jananath is talking straight to Shallan of Radiant. Don't use the oath gate. I'm not your enemy. I'm on your side. And fast forward, the Oathgate is trapped, and they end up in Shadesmar. So, can we trust Jananath? Like, she's an unmade. Like, that's what Shallan says. Like, you're an unmade from Odium. Why should I trust you? And she says, no, I was made and then unmade, but I am of me now, not Odium, is what she says. So what are you guys' thoughts here? Are we trusting Jananath? Is Adolin right in saying just use the Oathgate anyway? Like, I don't care where we end up, we can't stay here, so you gotta do something.
I thought that was right because in my head I was like, why would we trust the bad guy right now? Like, so
I think that was the right
if I was
decision.
them, I would definitely be like, oh no, you can't use it. No.
Right.
You'll die. Like you can't use it, whether or not that was true. So
Yep. I agree. I think Shallan makes the right decision here. They have to, right? It's either we all die here or we walk into what we know is a trap and either die or maybe live. Like, I'll take maybe live over definitely die.
Right.
So, yeah. But now we're left with the interesting question of, do we trust Shah or not? Maybe? Like, what motive can we think of for Shah not saying this if she's not trying to help Shallan?
There's
right?
There's also an interesting tidbit of right when Jananath enters the scene, she enters as a person in the mirror, not not the shadow unmade that we've become familiar with. She enters as a person and then quickly changes to a shadow with like white eyes, is what it's described as. So could that mean that Jananath was once a person? What is that?
was it like someone like Aesodan before? Maybe all of our unmade were once people. Kind of like how the Heralds were once normal people, right? It's like, weren't they?
Maybe.
And they got sucked into this whole like immortal thing where they never go away.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm inclined to now like look for more reasons to trust this unmade, which, I mean, that just sounds crazy, right? We're looking for reasons to trust an unmade of Odium. Like, what? But yeah,
especially given the other unmade we have heard from, like our other one. What was the name? Yelignar. Like they sounded pretty psycho, and Ray Shapir seemed pretty psycho. Like it's hard to try and trust one, even if they sound normal.
I agree. But I'm still stuck here thinking of like, what's the angle? If Jananath is evil, why do this? If their whole plan is to get them to fall into this trap with the Oathgate, why say anything? Shallan was just about to go activate it. Why say something? It's unless it's a like triple cross where
4D chess.
Right, where she's like, okay, I'm gonna warn you about the trap that I want you to fall into, so that you'll think about maybe trusting me, so that later on I can use that against you. Like, maybe it's really going crazy here, but I don't know. I'm kind of inclined to maybe look for some more reasons to trust this spren, because I can't think of a solid motive for wanting to do this.
Right as the chapter ends, Jananath realizes that she's going to use the Oathgate anyway, and she says, "I will try not to kill you." And
ominous, right?
Yes. And then she turns pattern in the in the handle, and the chapter ends like that. Poof, gone. All right, Elliot. We've gone weeks without Dalinar content, and you have a sliver, a small slice of Dalinar content in 86. Do you want to talk about 86?
Yeah, we've only had some massive, huge revelations with Dalinar, and Dalinar now understands his past, or some of it at least, and has this huge moment. And then, yeah, we step away from Dalinar for like a solid 10 chapters there. Now we're back, and sure enough, Dalinar is like crippled, right, by this realization, which, I mean, who wouldn't be, right?
Rightfully so, yes.
You just realized that in a past life, you were a monster who let his own rage murder at your own hand your own wife. Yeah, how do you move forward with that as your reality? Dalinar's stumbling through it. He's making his way through it. But before we talk about Dalinar, I actually did want to mention the epigraph. This is apparently an epigraph episode because we mentioned a previous one.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention this one, and we probably don't need to talk about it super too in depth, but it just says something simply this. Everyone says I will swear the fourth ideal soon, and in so doing, earn my armor. Which was an interesting little tidbit. We've kind of surmised, or maybe gotten some hints before, that seems like Radiants of the past seem to be able to like maybe summon their armor or earn their armor or something like that. This seems to add some pretty solid evidence to that, and even tells us that the fourth ideal is where you earn your armor. So that's I know, I think a long time ago we maybe tried to break down, like, you know, Kaladin was saying first, second, third ideal, like where they're at in the progression. I don't think anyone said a fourth ideal. I mean, I guess they'd probably have armor if they did. So is this kind of the next, you know, level for our heroes here? If they can get to the fourth ideal, they're going to earn some spren plate or something like that.
Yeah, I figured that. I thought we had heard before, it talks about, like, you know, soldiers complete with plate and blade, right? And all
Yeah.
that kind of notion. And so I've kind of assumed that was a thing. If not, I feel like we had talked about this before.
What you're thinking of is when Shallan is confronting Yasna earlier in this book of, oh, I don't need you anymore. I'm not your pupil. And then Yasna counters back of, oh, where's your armor then? If you're a full-fledged Knights Radiant, where's your armor?
Yeah. So that's exciting. Do you think we're going to get that at the end of this book? Are we going to see a level 4 Knight Radiant?
Yeah, I think very plausibly. That was a big reveal in Words of Radiance, right? When Kaladin earned his Spren Blade. So are we headed for another momentous earn your armor moment? Whether Kaladin or somebody else? Could be. So back to Dalinar, unless you guys had any other thoughts on that.
Nope.
There was a quote I wanted to read. Apparently it's a read from the book episode as well. Haven't done a whole lot of that recently, so we're getting it all in this episode.
One. Big episode.
It is a huge episode. This is massive stuff. I wanted to read something that really hit on a hard part of Dalinar's struggle here. And he's actually having a conversation with Taravangian, which I feel like every conversation we now see with Taravangian is like, I can't take it with a straight face. Or like, I can't take it at face value because I'm like, okay, I want to just, read these words of the conversation they're having. But I also know exactly all the things that Taravangian is involved in, and I don't trust the guy, and he might be the supervillain. I don't know. So this was definitely one of those conversations. But here's what he says. And this is Taravangian saying this, which, again, it comes with a whole second meaning when it's coming out of Taravangian's mouth. But here's what he says. Dalinar and Taravangian are talking about this whole, like, how do you live with yourself? Yes, Taravangian whispered. More daunting, however, are similar moments when I realize I'm not the man I think of myself as being. And they're kind of having this conversation of like, how do I live when I'm not the man everyone else thinks I am? And Taravangian responds back with this one. And how hard hitting is this? Like, what's worse than not being who everyone else thinks you are? What's worse is not being who you think you are. And this is so true. I've had moments like this where I've done something and maybe somebody's, called me out on it or said, hey, Elliot, that's not cool. And you have a moment where you're like, oh, wow, I thought of myself as, honorable or kind or responsible or whatever it is. And then you have this moment of realization that, oh, in that moment, I was not. Like those are the hard hitting moments where it just hits you of like, whoa, I'm not who I thought I was. And this is like that for Dalinar on an incredible, massive scale. Like everything Dalinar thought he was, he's not. And yeah, that would paralyze me pretty big.
People talk about imposter syndrome of like not being who everybody thinks you are. Like Dalinar quite literally had his entire identity stripped from him in about 30 seconds and has to try to cope with this. So
I feel like if anyone in our story can cope with it, it is Dalinar though.
It's true.
We still don't have the full story.
True.
We've gotten most of it. We've had the big reveal, and Dalinar's had a bit of the big reveal, but we still are missing a bit of the timeline, right? We're missing how does Dalinar get from I've done a terrible thing, I'm a horrible person, to I'm honorable and I'm going to make all the rest of these scoundrels be honorable with me. And we know the Night Watcher and memory loss is in there somewhere, but like how all that plays out, I think is still important to kind of how all of this fits together.
And there's a line in here that Dalinar actually has, which is a fairly encouraging one for me. I remember as a first time reader of, I really, really liked Dalinar, and then learning what you do in part 3. But Dalinar has a very specific line in his mental dialogue here that's really important, in my opinion. He thinks to himself, why couldn't I just keep on living like I did before, of not knowing the truth, just so I could get the coalition together and keep, like, not worry about myself, my inner dialogue. And then he stops himself and says, no, that's what you did before, and that's the coward's route. You ran from this in the past. Like, he doesn't remember that specifically, but he knows that he went to the Night Watcher to have those memories ripped from him so he could live normally. And he thinks to himself, no, that's not right. That's what I did before. And that's the coward's route. I need to live with this. I don't know how I'm going to do that right now, but I need to do that. So that was a really cool mental dialogue as a first time reader for me.
That's a tough one. It's yeah.
Quick note on 86 before we jump to 87 with, like, we only have one thing to talk about at 87, but with 86, they've been informed that Kholinar has fallen and the Radiants are nowhere to be found. In the next chapter, we realize that they're in Shadesmar, but the Urithiru's, just from a battle standpoint, Urithiru has been crippled at this point. They've lost all but one of their Radiants. Taravangian is the only one that has a Radiant to activate the Oathgate now. I guess Jasnah can activate the Oathgate too. So actually, that's not true. There's 2 Radiants who can activate the Oathgate, Jasnah and our Dustbringer.
Can't Dalinar?
He does not have a Shard Blade.
Oh, that's true. Not yet.
Possibly Renarin, but we haven't seen him do that, right?
That's true. Have we seen him with a shard blade?
I don't think we have.
But anyway,
I kind of thought we had, but I don't actually remember.
It talks about in the beginning of the book how Shallan is the only one who's at Urithiru who can activate the Oath Gates, but that's before Yasna gets there. So I think it's just Yasna and the Dustbringer in Urithiru that can activate the Oath Gates right now.
I don't even remember her name. What was her name?
Malada?
Okay. Malada. Yeah, that's right.
And
we've still seen nothing from her.
And Bridge 4. They don't have their Surge Binder buddy in Kaladin to practice all their Surge Binding, so they are Windrunnerless at Urithiru at the moment. Except, Elliot, I'll let you take it because I think you know where I'm going with this.
With the notable possibility of our friendly neighborhood, why am I blanking on his people? Horneater. Our friendly neighborhood Horneater, Rock, who is now in possession of what we believe to be the Windrunner Honor Blade.
Correct. That's not actually what I was referring to, but yes, correct. What I was referring to was our last section of interludes. Do you guys remember Teft? He had a Spren of his own who was disappointed in him and saying, hey, you've said oaths, Teft. And Teft says, no, you need to go to someone else. You've picked the wrong person. So we could get to the point, Teft has a long way to come, but we could get to the point of Teft being the knight, the Windrunner knight at Urithiru, because he does have his own individual Spren, and we haven't seen that from anybody else. And yes, we also have the Honor Blade that Rock has.
And it's very unknown whether the Honor Blade would even work like that. If Rock were to whip out that Honor Blade or give it to someone else, and they were to wield those powers, would that even allow them to convey the Squire powers to the people around them? Maybe, but yeah, maybe Teft actually is a better way to go there. But yeah, he does have a little ways to pull himself up, doesn't he?
Just a tad.
Just a tad. All right, and to end the episode, 87, we have plopped ourselves down in Shadesmar. There are two huge Spren on the other side. Well, there's actually a couple Spren, but there's two massive ones that Adolin...
It's 30 feet.
Yep, that Adolin sees initially. And then he gets pulled out of the beads by Azure and spins around, and who all does he see?
He sees the three Spren that are normal height, like a human height.
Right.
Right. He sees Pattern's description, which I thought was really interesting. It says he's wearing a coat that seems to be made out of stone, and his head is a contortion of lines and figments that's impossible. It boggles the mind, kind of thing. He sees a glowing lady, which we know as Syl. And then he sees a third Spren, which is described as having, is it thorns or vines or, wires or something like that protruding?
It was like rope, is what it was.
Yeah,
cord.
It was like rope.
Cord
yeah,
is the word it uses.
Exactly. Cord-like things kind of protruding, and eyes that seemed to be like someone took a knife to a canvas. Eyes are scratched out, which was very scary in my mind. I was like, whoa, okay. I would definitely choose I would definitely choose Syl out of these three to hang out with. Anyways, really interesting. So we take it that this is Azure's Spren.
Elliot doesn't look so sure over there, but
I mean, it could be Adolin's, it could be something else. But I think the point is this is Azure's Spren. Whoa. And we will see. But this got me really curious because it's not like anything we've seen before, for sure.
I'm definitely thinking this is Azure's Spren. I am. It is theoretically possible. There's a 2% possibility here that we get a big old twist and it's not Azure's Spren and it's Adolin's Spren. That would be, wait, what?
What a way to meet your Spren. Just
right?
Actually, though, wow.
So that's possible. And that would, of course, push us back into the camp of, okay, Azure is wielding an honor blade and not a, bond with a spren type of thing. But I think this is Azure's spren. That's kind of where I'm defaulting here. I'm immediately jumping on the train of like trying to figure out, okay, what kind of a spren is this? And what order does that put her in?
That was
And
exactly what my thoughts were.
I mean, we can
we get a little
probably safely assume one of our first chapters in part 4 is going to be like, all right, what the heck? You got a spren. What order are you? Like.
I hope so.
We can hope. I don't know if that will happen.
We get one other piece of evidence that might help us here, and that's that Azure has been here before.
Correct.
She drops a line of something like, I hate this place, which is like, yeah, if I'm one of the other people, I'm doing a double take like, wait, what? You've been here before? And so we know that soul casting involves traveling to Shadesmar, right? At least that's how Shallan does it.
Right.
So we also know or have some hints that we know that Yasna can soul cast. We also know that her other ability has to do with like teleportation, to oversimplify it, but basically to go into Shadesmar and then be able to pop back out when she can find the right like crossover point.
Right.
So there's two different ways to get into Shadesmar. So my first guess is that Azure would have at least one of these two surges.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't be a light weaver because her spren is not a cryptic. Right. So we can cross that one off. We've also seen Yasna's spren. So we have a vague idea of what he looks like. He's like this inky, dark, oily blob thing. Yeah, man shape. And I know that spren look a little bit different in the physical realm versus the cognitive realm, but they seem to have similarities. And this seems completely different, right? This doesn't seem anything like Yasna's spren. So we know Yasna's an Else Caller. So I'm ruling out Lightweaver. I'm ruling out Else Caller. We need to know what's the third order that has that ability.
Would you like to know what the next order is in the spoke over here?
Can I guess first and then you tell me?
I would like to guess. I also have, I think.
Yep.
So my guess, and I intentionally did not do any research on this. I really wanted to even just like Google, the list of orders of Knights Radiant, and I know I need to not do those kinds of things, so I did not. I'm going to go on a complete guess and go with Will Shaper.
Okay.
And that is almost completely because I feel like we know zip zilch zero about Will Shapers. We have like at least a nugget of something on pretty much every other order. We know at least one person or have some information about them. And Will Shapers have been very interestingly absent. So I don't even know what orders are next to each other, but I'm going to throw out Will Shaper.
I was also going to guess Will Shaper. So that makes me feel a lot more confident as well. I think that's really good reasoning. I was thinking, I had a thought about it today. So, fun fact for everyone watching, today is the same day that I retook the Knights Radiant quiz and posted stuff in the Discord about it, all that jazz. I was looking at the list and I was like, okay, who have we seen? We obviously have a Windrunner. We've obviously seen Skybreakers. We've seen an Edge Dancer. We haven't really seen the Spren, really. We kind of have, right? With Truth Watcher with Renarin. We've seen the Else Caller one. That's Yasna. We know Bondsmith is like the craziness.
Special.
We've seen the Dustbringer one with Malada, right? So that leaves like what, Stoneward and Will Shaper. And it definitely seems more like a Will Shaper thing.
You forgot Lightweaver, but obviously we've seen Lightweaver.
Yes. We've seen Lightweaver. Yeah. So yes. I also think it's a Will Shaper because we have no connection to a Will Shaper right now.
So if you see on my little visual in the back here, this is a Lightweaver. That is an Else Caller. and next to the Else Caller is the Will Shapers. So
Mhm.
sharing a power with the Else Callers is Will Shaper.
Which we
Nice.
know has to be the like teleportation one because the Else Caller shares the soul casting with the Light Weaver, so
Correct.
their other one of whatever that
Mhm.
traveling into Shadesmar power is, they have to share that with the Will Shaper. So now I'm very firmly in the camp of I think she's a Will Shaper.
Any closing
That's
thoughts
smart.
from part 3 of Oathbringer?
I'm impressed you could deduce that, by the way, Elliot. That was really smart. Because I was here thinking like, well, I guess we'll have to wait and figure it out. But I think that's pretty accurate. And kind of process of elimination, but very fun.
I was reading some Sherlock Holmes the other day, so I'm putting my skills to use.
Nice.
Any closing thoughts?
I think that's it. This is the fulcrum, the moment, the pivotal point for our entire story as a whole. I feel like I feel a little humbled actually by this moment because I feel like I don't even fully grasp like the gravity and the importance of this, and we just sat here for close to 2 hours trying to process through this, and I feel like there's even more here we could have gone through, and I feel like once we learn more, there'll be even more we can come back here and unpack and figure out how important this moment is. So I feel like we've just witnessed something that's even more important than we already think it is. So I'm humbled to be passing through this moment in Stormlight archive lore.
Very cool.
All right. We can read our interludes for next week and reconvene then. So thanks for joining me, Paul and Eliot, and we can talk about some interludes next week.
Maybe we'll get
See
us
you
that
later.
one finally.
Ooh.
All right.
What?